Welcome to the Aerospace Advantage podcast. I'm Heather Lucky Penney, your host and a senior fellow at the Mitchell Institute. Here on the Aerospace Advantage, we speak with leaders in the DoD, industry, and other subject matter experts to explore the intersection of strategy, operational concepts, technology, and policy when it comes to air and space power. So, if you like learning about aerospace power, you're in the right place. And to our regular listeners, welcome back. And if it's your first time here, thank you so much for joining us. As a reminder, if you like what you're hearing today, do us a favor and follow our show. Please give us a like and leave a comment so that we can keep charting the trajectories that matter the most to you. They call themselves SAMFOX, which stands for Special Air Missions Foreign. They do global airlift, logistics, security, aerial port, and communications. These are the airmen who are best known for flying our nation's most senior and elected leaders, like the President of the United States on Air Force One. So this week, it's our honor to host Col Angela Ochoa, commander of the 89th Airlift Wing. She and her airmen execute one of the most iconic missions in the entire Air Force, ensuring that the President of the United States, the Vice President, members of the Cabinet, and others can have safe, comfortable, reliable, connected, and protected airlift anytime, anywhere. Sometimes this is for a major diplomatic function that's been months in the making, and other times it's an unexpected trip where it's crucial to get the right leader on the ground ASAP for diplomatic purposes or to respond to a crisis. The blue and white DV aircraft that accomplish this mission are celebrities in their own right. They symbolize America's power and prestige. The VC-25, which is basically a 747, the C-32 based on the 757, the C-40 fleet, which has its roots in the 737, and the C-37, which is from the Gulfstream family. It's hard to miss one of those sitting on an airport ramp. Even more critical are the people who make this mission possible: the flight crew, maintenance personnel, aerial port personnel, communication and cyber professionals, security forces, and all the other folks involved. Any mission in the Air Force holds high standards, but the folks in the 89th are in a league of their own. So that's our topic for today. We're going to take a special look at the 89th to learn more about their mission, the aircraft, and the aircrew who make it all possible. Col Ochoa, it's a pleasure to have you with us. Thank you so much for making the time.
No, thank you. It's an honor to be here with you today, and I'm very excited to share with you more about the 89th Airlift Wing, Air Mobility Command, and the Mobility Forces.
Fantastic. But before we jump into the 89th and your mission, I'd love for our listeners to learn a little bit more about you and your journey to the 89th. I mean, it's an incredible command with super unique responsibilities, so your pathway there has to be interesting.
Well, it is an incredible command opportunity, and my path is a little different maybe, but I started out as a Herc pilot and have spent most of my time flying as a Herc pilot. Many deployments, and not to some of the locations that my aircrew go to now, but I'm proud of that background, and I will tell you that my journey here was kind of one that I've always had a little bit of a crush, if you will, on the SAMFOX Airmen.
Who doesn't, right? I mean, it's such an iconic mission, right?
It is. And I told them on day one when I took the flag that I've always been a secret admirer. So to be able to join the team and be on this team that is producing some of the most amazing flights, iconic flights, they are part of history every day. It's just an honor to be a part of that team. But yeah, had the opportunity to command at the 61st Airlift Squadron at Little Rock and then the 19th Airlift Wing before coming here to Joint Base Andrews.
Absolutely. I mean, you've gotten your fingernails dirty with the core of the airlift mission. We just had General Minahan, and I got to tell you, I'm a super Mini fan. So he was with us on the podcast a few months ago, and he did a fantastic job talking about what it means to evolve the air mobility enterprise from one that engaged in a world that was generally permissive to one that today we know is far more contested. And I think that's really important. It sets a foundation for a world in which every airman operating today has to be able to deal with that contested battle space, that contested environment. And so it also speaks a lot to what you're doing at the 89th. Let's go back to Mobility Guardian last summer when you were commanding the 89th. Can you talk us through how that changed your thinking and how your airmen responded to the challenges that that exercise imposed?
Sure. I want to take us back a little bit more, actually. So I've had a front row seat since 2021 to mobility, and it's been a front row seat in a wing command position, which has truly been amazing. August of 2021, we watched the Afghanistan drawdown, and I think many of us in command positions at that time said, never again will we allow that to happen. We will be more prepared, more ready, no matter what the circumstances bring. And then General Minahan came into the seat, and that was October of 2021. And it was amazing because his vision united not just Air Mobility Command, but the total force to be a lethal, credible force. And Operation Mobility Guardian truly was the way that he did that. Mobility Guardian had existed for many years, and it was an exercise that was happening every 2 years, but he took it and for the first time launched that overseas. And that's what we saw. And leading up to that and how he prepared not only the command, but all the wings and all the squadrons, he launched that vision and it replicated all throughout the force. So it was fantastic to be a part of that, to watch the planning and the machinations over the course of 2 years that ultimately led to Mobility Guardian 23. It was phenomenal.
So how was that exercise different? I mean, you mentioned that you deployed that overseas, but what kind of challenges did that impose on your airmen that's different than what previous Mobility Guardians did?
So in the past, Mobility Guardian was primarily a CONUS-based exercise, and it was mobility focused, but it was different when you're focused on deploying airmen in CONUS versus now we're taking them into another AOR. And in this case, it happened to be into the Pacific, where there's a pretty big body of water there to get from CONUS all the way over to the Pacific. So that was a different challenge that we had to define and work around in order to get after that.
So do you have any stories you'd like to share from Mobility Guardian that really captured what was at play? Where were your airmen most stressed, and how did this help them grow?
So I would say that what was really cool for me to be able to watch, and I was not actually in command during Mobility Guardian. I had a small break. I left the 19th Airlift Wing in June and then took command in August. So unfortunately, I was not in that front row seat during Mobility Guardian, but I got to see the whole lead up to it. And I would stress that it wasn't just one exercise in July of 2023. It was the series of exercises, the series of activities that led up to that, all the planning, all the orders, all the things that we did as a command led by General Minahan to get us ready for that. And I think what was stressful for people was we didn't quite know exactly where the final end state was. But we knew the vision. And that was what I think was really amazing, because it truly allowed us to create a space where everybody could imagine what that universe looked like and then go after and tackle the challenges that we saw together. I think that challenged some people beyond more maybe their comfort zone. What General Minahan did that was phenomenal for all of us was define risk. And he owned it, and he pushed us to own it, and pushed us to empower airmen to own that risk as well. That was truly a fundamental change for the mobility forces. But stress, yeah, because you know what? Every time that something happens in the world, we were planning for Mobility Guardian, and then February of 2022, Russia decided to invade Ukraine. So the world still happens. Things still go on. Everyone has lives, everyone has families. And so I would say that it's not just that we were planning for this one exercise and preparing for over 2 years for this, but we also had all the other normal things, the normal day-to-day things that had to happen as well.
I think that just goes to show that the demand on airlift never ceases. You didn't have time to take off and just sort of like polish and prepare for this exercise. You still had your real world missions that you were always doing and that were high demand. So thank you for that context, especially with the acknowledgement of what happened at Kabul. Not only were mobility airmen true heroes at that point in time, they rose to the occasion, but I think that your point about never again is really important. And so I really appreciate not only how General Minahan is shifting what his vision is, but how mobility airmen are rising to that occasion, and they are meeting the challenge and they are ready to move forward. So, with that, you've been part of a team that helps us set the conditions here at the 89th for the highest levels of policy. So can you sort of give our listeners and our audience like a broad overview of what you're doing at the 89th?
Sure. The 89th Airlift Wing is, at the end of the day, we deliver diplomacy. And that can be in many different forms and shapes, and we can talk through that. But I want to start by just focusing on great power competition a little bit. Great power competition starts with the 89th. Without the 89th, it doesn't happen, because the 89th is delivering diplomacy, which is integrated deterrence. We are the ones that help and enable our nation's most senior leaders to connect with partners and allies, to have relationships with all of their important counterparts. And that's something that we take very seriously. That's something that a lot of people may not know that is happening every single day, but integrated deterrence doesn't happen without partners and allies. And then great power competition doesn't happen without integrated deterrence. So I would say that it starts with us. And that's where every day that there's something going on in the world, there's probably an 89th Airlift Wing asset involved in something in that area.
Absolutely. So do you have any recent examples that you can share that help our audience get their noggins around what that looks like and how you're delivering that diplomacy?
Sure. So I want to focus on a mission that actually just happened, and many of you probably saw that the Secretary of State was over in China. He was over there interacting with some of our counterparts over there, and then in less than 48 hours turned around and went to Israel and was part of the diplomacy in action there. I would say that that is one of the classic missions, and helping get that DV to the places that he needs to go, delivering him and his staff on time so that he can bring America's message to our partners and allies and to all of our contacts is really important. And then the other side of that, I would say, is not just our nation's civilian leaders, but our military leaders, where the combatant commanders are often transported. That helps our nation's most senior military leaders engage with their counterparts so that their combatant command campaign plans can be made and enforced.
Thank you. I mean, you are really flying into a lot of areas that even traditional airlift don't go. And so this is a no-fail situation, not only because of where you're going, but also who you're transporting. So a lot is on the line, and this is a really high-level, high-visibility mission.
Yes, it is. And I would say that it is a high-level, high-visibility mission, but it is only accomplished because we have awesome airmen. It is a winning team that I'm very proud to be on. They are empowered to do their job every day. We have a selectively hired team with very high standards, and we hold people accountable to those standards. We deliberately hire for talent and experience, and I think that that is something that is unique. Again, it goes to accountability. We expect that our airmen deliver on time and uphold the standards that we adhere to.
I mean, when it comes to the 89th, you really are hiring the best of the best. You spoke about the talent and the experience, but clearly there's something a little bit more demanding or special about what you do at the 89th. So can you explain to our audience what's unique about flying our nation's most senior leaders and what goes into having that successful top 5 mission?
Yeah. So I would say that a lot of people just see the jet and they don't really even see our crews out there, but they just see the jet land and the DV get off. But what they maybe don't realize is that a couple days prior, our maintenance team started working to prepare that jet. The crews started planning that mission potentially weeks in advance. It's intel informed. Our comm squadron is supporting that. We often have Ravens on board, which are defenders that are flying along to provide security for the assets. Our aerial port squadron is involved to make sure that the planes are loaded and ready to go. And then we run America's Airfield. America's Airfield, where we have many no-fail missions across all the Department of Defense. I would say that what makes it special and unique, what produces that top 5 mission, is it's a team sport. It takes the entire team rowing together. We are a very mission-focused wing, and we execute and deliver because we're mission-focused.
You talked about really sort of managing America's Airfield there at Andrews Air Force Base, or Joint Base Andrews now today. So can you talk more about and share more with our listeners what else goes into that airfield management, as well as some of the behind-the-scenes things that occur to facilitate all the movement of your DV airlift?
Sure. So, it's everything from loading toilet paper, making sure we have the blue juice on the plane, little things like that, which, most people don't think about, but it's also the meals and the service that go along with that. In addition to that, because I like to say, the 89th Airlift Wing, most people think of us as a nice leather seat and a good drink, and that's not really what it's about. The people that need our assets and need to fly on our assets are there for communication. They need to be connected. And so that's really, truly what it is. And we have plenty of people that are working behind the scenes to make sure our nation's most senior leaders can stay connected to the national security apparatus, and that's why they exist. In addition to that, Joint Base Andrews, yes, we have an operational support squadron that runs our airfield and coordinates across Joint Base Andrews. It is a joint base, lots of mission partners, lots of competing priorities, but they make it look seamless because they do it day in, day out, whether it be airfields, operations, or weather, or just making sure that our aircrew have the flight equipment that they need.
So we've talked about the high-end international trips that make the nightly news. But as you mentioned, your mission is so much broader than that, whether or not that's the places you go to, the strips that you fly into, places that you might not even have trained to go, your security professionals, the Ravens that are on board, to all of the airfield operations that you do. But the types of missions and passengers that you fly, they vary a lot. One day you might be transporting a senior official to Milwaukee or Dubuque, Iowa, and on another, it might be a major state visit around the globe to a country like Japan or somewhere even close to a war zone and going into China and going into Ukraine. So how does this variance of mission, destination, and passengers, how does it impact the planning and the execution of the mission and how your team trains for that?
It requires intense mission planning, and our team is constantly planning, not just for one mission, but sometimes 3, 4, or 5 missions at any given time. There is a huge demand on our team, and they exceed it every single time. I'm so proud of them because they truly deliver that. But yes, most of the time, our aircrew out there, they're not just executing a mission, but they're planning for the next 2 or 3 that they have. We are supported by an incredible intel team. They are flight following our teams, they're providing them updates, and truly right alongside our aircrew. A lot of people don't think that we would have a robust intel team, but they are absolutely critical and amazing at what they do, truly thinking outside the box. I already mentioned the comm squadron and our comm professionals that make sure that we're connected all the time. But the other thing I wanted to mention, you said, how do we train for that? And I would say this is very much a job. We hire some of the Air Force's best. And the reason why we do that is we don't have a training fence. We have to do our training through other means or on operational missions, which is very unique and it increases our risk. We are working right now to modernize our training. We're using a lot of VR techniques. We're getting some fuselage trainers so that we can do more training locally. And we are also running a formal training unit to make sure that we train all of our enlisted aviators. And that is a new challenge, but we're definitely up for it. We want to own that mission set because at the end of the day, we are the primary users and customers of that FTU. But it demands a lot of focus. It demands the best out of our folks all the time. And I would say that as a result of that, there will be mistakes. But what is really great about this team and this mission is that we have redundant processes, we have resilient procedures and equipment so that when mistakes happen, most people don't even know that it's happening because our airmen are there to back each other up and someone else is covering down. Now, I want to share with you something. It was given to me by my predecessor, and it's kind of been handed down. And I think it's just a good place to insert this, but it explains what SAMFOX really is. And I'm just going to read it to you because, every now and then I'll pull this card out. It's in the beginning of my book, and I think it really kind of exemplifies who they are and what they embody. But SAMFOX, one word, captures and epitomizes the essence and spirit of the 89th Airlift Wing. Although the concept has evolved over the years, it is still the cornerstone of the service we provide. It has been explained that SAMFOX is doing your job the right way, first time, every time, without being asked, and knowing that the airman next to you is doing the same. Another definition is an attitude of extraordinary professionalism and dedication to perfection. This concept is passed from one generation of wingmen to another through time and experience. SAMFOX is a state of mind, quiet, humble professionals. This attitude should inspire in each of us a sense of teamwork, knowing that the others on the team will do their job and trusting them with the goal being safe and successful mission accomplishment. Our job is to make it happen for the DVs we carry, no matter how difficult or time-consuming the request, within the guidelines set up by our regulations and instruction. The reward for outstanding performance is knowing we did our best to make sometimes difficult mission happen. Pride comes from within, pride in ourselves, pride in our unit, pride in the United States of America.
That's fantastic. What a wonderful, challenging, and meaningful legacy to be provided to you by your predecessor. We've talked a lot about the behind the scenes that your team does to make a mission go. let's flip the script a little and look at what the customer service experience is like.
So I would say that for our airmen, they're trying to make sure that everyone that is coming into contact with our jets on our missions are treated like they are the most important person in the world. Whether or not they are the primary DV or not, we want them to walk away saying, wow, this was an amazing experience, and I can't wait to come back and fly with the 89th again. And I would say that every single one of our airmen is focused on making sure that anyone that steps foot on our jets is getting that type of experience.
So how does this collaboration process look like with other parts of the DV Airlift team that's elsewhere within the Air Force and beyond? You've got C-40s at Scott, there's the 201st there at Andrews, and I flew with them for a while. And you also have the Marines and MX-1 who operate your vertical lift assets like Marine One. How do you do that coordination and collaboration?
You know what? I'm still figuring that out a little bit. I would say that it's a team effort. And you're right, it is total force. We have active duty, guard, and reserves. There's Navy, there's Marines, Army, and it all happens there on Joint Base Andrews. There's a couple other places as well, but we all work together. We deconflict. We share information when we have it. If someone's going to a location that they haven't been and they know we've been there in a while. In fact, actually, I was just talking with my neighbor earlier today, and she said, hey, you guys helped us out with a recent trip. You gave us some great intel. You gave us some great ideas and ways to actually execute that mission, and it really helped us out. So thank you so much. That type of collaboration happens because we're co-located there at Joint Base Andrews, but also because we all realize the demands of the mission and that we want to make America look good together, you know?
And you're providing a seamless high-performance team across all the different services and across all the different functions in order to be able to execute that kind of lift. So let's look and turn towards the broader AMC team, because it's not just about the blue and whites or the green and whites, right? C-17s fly with you as well, and there's other people, equipment, supplies attached to that senior leader movement. So how do you coordinate that? And are those aircrew trained in any kind of special way?
Sure. So yes, you're right. C-17s, C-130s, many different airlift assets are used to help transport whatever our senior leaders need. And a lot of that is in advance. Sometimes it's after, but most senior leaders don't just move on their own. There's usually a package there. I would say that sometimes it does require additional training and support, but air mobility crews are amazing, and they know what they're doing, and they're highly trained and proficient. And I'm really proud every time I see the joint team going out there and the mobility team going out there and getting it done. It's truly amazing. I will give you a very specific example, though. We have what we call the silver bullet, and that is something. It's a piece of equipment that our DVs can fly inside, which is then placed, it's a capsule that's then placed inside a C-17. So sometimes that is a great way to transport a senior leader around, and that's done through mobility. It's one of our assets, but ultimately it is a Air Force asset that we use together.
Amazing. You certainly are a very high-performing team, and you've talked a lot about how you have each other's backs, you have excellence through your operational procedures, your standards, and that's all about providing that high-quality experience that is safe, secure, reliable, and delivering what your mission is. People at the end of the day are your most important asset. So how do you keep such a high-performing team doing what they do, given the level of mission stress that you must experience?
It's a great question. So we're doing some things here, and they're things that are a continuation of some ideas that I had at Little Rock too. But there are some things that were started before I got here, and that is that we have an operational psychologist on staff that is there for our crews, for our hiring boards. We also are bringing on a dedicated chaplain this summer, which I'm really excited about. But more importantly, and we've seen this under General Manahan's leadership with Warrior Heart, Mind, Body, Craft, if you haven't heard of that, but we are focusing more on human performance. That's something that I deliberately am committed to. I've personally seen and professionally seen a focus on human performance make a difference. So that's something that I am personally trying to do here in the 89th, is bring that focused effort into the mind and the body. We focus so much on the craft, and our airmen have it. They know their jobs. They're amazing at it. So let's just focus a little bit more on what it means to exercise our minds and our bodies. I will tell you that for me, it was a journey that began about 10 years ago with, it was an 8-week intensive I took with mindfulness. And that's something that over the course of the last 10 years, and as I've been in command positions and in leadership positions, I have tried to bring to whatever organization I'm a part of. And I remember standing up in front of my squadron many years ago, giving a briefing about mindfulness. And at the end of the briefing, I thought to myself, well, I just lost them all. They all think I'm the kooky commander that's getting up talking about mindfulness. But actually, there were some people, of course, that laughed about it. But there were others that came up to me afterwards and said, I'm so glad you talked about that. We need more focus on this in the Air Force. And that kind of motivated me to continue on the journey and continue to be an advocate for it. We train our bodies, we train for our craft. A lot of times we miss the mind piece. And mindfulness is just one way that you can get after training the mind.
Thank you. I was going to ask if you might go a little bit further into mind, body, craft.
Sure.
Do you have any tips? Like explain this a little bit more?
Sure. So Warrior Heart is the initiative that General Minahan did bring to Air Mobility Command, and he launched it. And he has been an incredible example to many. And I know that he talked about it on the podcast a couple weeks ago. But I think a lot of times, and at least what I've seen in my journey now in the Air Force, my career, we focused so much early on in the post 9/11 era on craft. It was all about how do you max perform the jet? How do you get the most out of your people to get the most out of the mission? And I think we acknowledge now that we watched our bodies go. We really weren't focusing on the mind. And when you put those three together, it really can create an incredible effect, not just for the individuals, but for the entire team. It's about helping people reach their best selves. And the best self is not just what you do, it's who you are and how you show up. We have to take care of our bodies. And for me, that starts with sleep. And I'm not the best, but I try every day. I have some sleep goals right now. But that's it. A lot of times people talk about body and they think, oh, it's just exercise. No, it's more than just exercise. It is exercise. It's how we eat. It's our nutrition. It's how we sleep. It starts with sleep because that's foundational. And then the mind piece really, truly is exercising the mind. And, there's plenty of different apps out there right now. There is also plenty of research-backed articles that you can look at. But mindfulness helps decision-making. It helps with mental focus. It helps with so many more things, mental capacity, working capacity. Why would you not want to be at your peak performance? And that's where mind, body, craft comes into play. And that's the Warrior Heart.
Absolutely. So how do people find their way to the 89th? It's clearly a prized assignment. I mean, you yourself said that you had a crush on the 89th. Yeah. And people aren't considered unless they've really demonstrated that positive track record throughout their entire career. So how do they path their way there?
Yeah, so I would say a couple things. First of all, we are often out there on recruiting trips, and we will have plenty of opportunities to go visit. We go multiple trips a year to different locations so that we can showcase our mission and see if it's a right fit, because we want to make sure that it's a good fit for everybody. We also have, we set up some booths at different venues, AFA being one of them, ATA, many different places where people can come and learn about us. And at the end of the day, if you're interested, send me an email. I gladly take anybody emailing me, and I'll pass it on to our hiring team, and then we'll see if it can work out.
Excellent. All right. Well, you'll be hearing from me shortly,
okay,
right?
Great.
So you've talked a lot about some of the demands that you have, that you're always constantly working trips that are on the road, that there are in execution, as well as you've got stuff that's in planning. And then you might have DVs that need to move right now, someplace totally exotic that would typically take a lot of planning, a lot of diplomatic clearances and so forth. So I'm pretty sure there's not a typical week, but if there was, what might that look like? What would that tempo be?
Yeah, there is no typical week. And I will tell you, there have been many times in just the 8+ months that I've been in Wing Command here that I go into the week thinking I'm going to do one thing, and then life changes, life happens, or something happens on the other side of the world and we have to change plans. So I think that what's unique about that is that it requires a lot of flexibility out of our airmen, and they respond to that flexibility. Everybody says that flexibility is the key to air power, right?
Yeah.
But it's the key to our success. Is we can have a plan, and a plan is a point of departure. So we will try to execute that plan, but we will also make sure that we are ready for whatever comes up. I love that our airmen, they get it. They see what they do. They see the impact that it has. So when we call them up on a Sunday and say, hey, I need you to come in today, they come in and they get it done because they know what's on the line. And they know that at the end of the day, their mission, what they're going to do that day is going to have national level impact.
And it sounds like you're doing your best to take care of them as whole people, as whole families, so that although you have a really high demand signal, you're not going to reach that kind of burnout that might otherwise occur.
That's right. We have people that are, I would say there's so many people that do, we have 24/7, 365 mission. So there are always people on call in the office, if you will, in the 89th Airlift Wing. And, there's no day off. There is no downtime. We don't get to have the family days. So I trust and empower my commanders to truly give that time back when it works for them and when it works for the mission. And they do. They take care of their airmen and they give that time. But, a lot of folks have said, well, can't you just take a day off? I don't think so. I've never seen that. And I don't know that, our customers ever take a day off. So I would love to be able to provide that, but I just don't see that coming anytime soon.
You've already talked about how diverse the mission sets and functions that you have as the 89th commander that is underneath your purview. One of which is that you've got 4 different type of aircraft that you have to operate, maintain, sustain, and it's not just about the personnel and the mission planning, it's also about the maintenance and the spare parts. So what is different about and what is challenging about how you manage those aircraft, especially given that you have all this mission specialized equipment that you wouldn't have in the civilian fleet, for example?
Sure. So we are civilian derivative aircraft, and we have fantastic partnerships with a lot of people. We do have contract maintenance, and we have our own blue suit maintenance as well. So that is, I think, something that is very unique. And then our relationships with all of our partners, and I'm not going to name them, but we do have a lot of industry partners that work with us and work with Air Mobility Command and work with Air Force Materiel Command to make sure that we are keeping our jets up to the level of that our DVs demand and what they should receive. So those relationships are very key to make sure that the fleet, which is a very old fleet, stays highly functional.
So you've been in the job for about a year and you've got another year to go. And it's always important for us to look forward about what's the kind of legacy that we want to leave and what's the advice that we would provide for someone who's coming in to fill our position. So what wisdom would you pass to a future successor?
Watch the news, because that's where your week's going to go. No, but more importantly, I would say that you have to be ready to learn every day. I do. There is never a day that I don't learn something. I show up and I'm either learning something about our airmen or the way that we do our mission or something that I just did not know happened in the wing. And that happens almost every day. There's no surprises. Command is command, and that happens. But you have to be ready to learn every day. You have to have a growth mindset. If you come in thinking that you know everything, you're gonna get wiped out on day one.
I think that's true for any position we're in, right?
And then the other thing I would say is truly it's about communication. I think that is one of the things that any leader has to be able to communicate, but it requires a different set of communication skills that has been fun to hone and grow and develop in myself, communicating up, down, out with very different mission partners all over. It has been fun and challenging, and I'm learning. I'm still learning.
We are always growing. So I know for all the commanders that I've spoken with, they always have some favorite stories of experiences in their command. Do you have one or two that you would share with us?
Sure. There's one in particular that I would love to share, and that is, back on October 7th, that was a horrific day, but shortly after that, the team got together and launched Sex State out to Israel. And I will never forget the morning that I looked at my phone, and there on the front page of the news was Sex State, and around him was about 12 microphones, and behind him was one of our blue and white jets. And then silhouetted in front of the jets were 2 airmen. I have no idea who those 2 airmen are, but you couldn't see their faces. You could just see their bodies in front of the blue and white jet. And that picture for me, still to this day, reminds me that that's what our mission is about. It's about delivering whoever our customer is, whoever that DV is, to wherever they need to go so that they can deliver the news of America, deliver that diplomacy. And in the background, it is the blue and white jet that helped him get there, and the airmen that maybe don't have a face, maybe don't have a name, but they're always there. They're humble, quiet professionals, always working to make sure that DV gets there on time. That's what the mission looks like to me, and that's what success looks like.
That's a powerful story of how your team really delivered, and truly also how iconic Air Force One is, the blue and white jets are, that the 89th is, regarding what they represent to everyone around the world. And that's America's prestige, power, alliance, and partnership. And you are delivering that kind of diplomacy. Thank you so much. It's clear that you are stepping into shoes that have gone before you, not just your previous commander, but the legacy of airmen who have taken this mission forward. So thank you so much, and we look forward to seeing you again.
Thank you.
With that, I'd like to extend a big thank you to our guests for joining in today's discussion. I'd also like to extend a big thank you to you, our listeners, for your continued support and for tuning into today's show. If you like what you heard today, don't forget to hit that like button and follow or subscribe to the Aerospace Advantage. You can also leave a comment to let us know what you think about our show or areas you would like us to explore further. As always, you can join in on the conversation by following the Mitchell Institute on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, or LinkedIn, and you can always find us at mitchellaerospacepower.org. Thanks again for joining us, and have a great aerospace power kind of day. See you next time.